Hey guys, this is Lenny with Live the Adventure. Today we're actually going to cover one of the most basic traps out there, and that is the snare. And it's just using a simple wire. The wire needs to be about 18 to 24 gauge wire. If you want to trap anything bigger than smaller game, then you probably want to go a little bit bigger than that. Like if you're going for coyotes, foxes, you're going to want to get some real traps, because those guys have some real force to pull on, and they easily get out of something like this. So this is the snare. It looks very similar to what we are building in the field. I wanted to quickly show you it. So with a coyote or a fox, when it goes through here, the way this works is it cinches down, but it doesn't uncinch because it has a hinge which locks it. It makes it difficult to move. So let's use my hand as an example. It can't loosen. It stays tight. See that? I've lost the slack, but it still is tight and it strangles that animal. So same way with the snares that we're trying to build. We're trying to build snares that do that. So back to the woods. So this is 24 gauge wire. You can tell it's extremely small and fine. It's a little bit smaller than paper clips, really. So the key thing, what you're looking for when you want to set up a trap for snaring something, you want to find where animals have been going, where they've been moving. So find trails that look like they're defined. As a hunter, I find these pretty easy, but as you become accustomed to it and to the environment, you start to notice the natural paths that animals take. They try and take the path of least resistance. And so you look for those kind of paths, and when you find those, you know, hey, this is where I want to put my trap. Set it up. You try not to disturb that environment. And then you just check it daily. And as you check it, that'll be your source of food. With a wire like this, you can make a lot of traps. In trapping, they call their traps a trap line. So anyone not familiar with that, you'd basically set up a trap line that you would follow daily and check these traps to see if you had food that was acquired. So let's go and set up a trap using the snare. It's very simple how we set that up. It's basically a noose. We're going to first get some of this wire off here. I've actually found a game trail right here, which I'm going to show you guys. Usually with snare wire, if you aren't familiar with friction and metal, basically if you bend metal quickly, it snaps, it breaks. So you create heat by bending the metal, and then it breaks off. You got to be careful with this set of snare wire that I have. It actually starts to unravel as soon as it's loose. So you got to put it in this little notch here. I actually picked this stuff up at a craft store. It was 24 gauge wire. I was like, okay, that's what I need, perfect. So I got that. So we've got our snare wire. What you want to make sure you do is you create a noose, and the noose needs to be about as big as the prey you're trying to catch. So I'm going to say I'm going for maybe like a squirrel or a rabbit. Okay, so we have our noose. And the whole idea about snaring is that you want to strangle the animal that you're trying to get for food. You want to strangle it. So you want it to be about as big as the animal that's going to be going through it. So let's say we have a rabbit. So I've got it about fist size. So fist comes through. As soon as that rabbit comes through it, it's going to get caught on the snare. It's going to notice that, and it's going to pull. As soon as that pulls, it's going to get really tight, and it's going to start to strangle that animal. It's going to fight and fight and fight. And that's why it has to be very strong. So make sure you use the right snare gauge wire when you're trying to catch a certain type of animal, because if you use too small a wire, the animal's going to have a chance of getting away, and you're going to be out of a meal. What are we looking for when we are looking for a place to set up a snare? When I came by here, I noticed there was this area. It's somewhat noticeable. To someone that's looking for it, it stands out very well. There is a very well-defined trail of dirt. Let's see if I can show this. So the trail goes like that, more or less. So you're looking for these dirt trails to actually go and set up your snare. In this location, we've got a really good tree that's right here. That's going to hold very tight. And so I'm gonna want to use that as an anchor point. If there's no trees, you have to actually create a stake, go and shave a little area to tie this off on so it won't slip off. And remember, camouflage your stake. If you cut that wood, make sure that you use some mud or some dirt and just rub it into those freshly cut areas. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up this trap right here. Okay, so we've tied our snare off to the tree. The next step is to actually place the snare where you want it to be. A good way to do that is using twigs and stuff. So I'm gonna actually go and get a couple of these, which are from the same environment. You wanna make sure that you're not using different types of trees and stuff in the environment where you're trapping. So like if you had a cottonwood tree and you stuck it near pines where there were no cottonwood trees, that would be one way of alerting an animal that something is off, because it could see and it could smell the different type of wood, because wood and trees have scent as well, and animals have very good sense of smell. So we've got ourselves a little twig here. All we want to do is use that to kind of anchor this in place because it's starting to flop a bit. So you probably want to have your snare about, depending on how big of an animal is you're trying to snare, you want it to be about 4 fingers high. And like I said, most of the stuff I'm teaching you is in the SAS handbook. So if you want to learn it yourself, go ahead and do that. I'm just doing a YouTube series that kind of goes over it as well for those that don't have the book. And then the next step is we want to block off where animals might step around your trap. You want to make sure that your path is the least of resistance path. So I'm just going to grab some some branches and stuff. And I'm going to just make it a lot more difficult for an animal that is coming through here, so that it chooses my path over any other. So as you can see, we've set up the trap. We have it about that high off the ground, and the snare can easily fit a hand through it. So we're set. We've got a wall here and a wall here that'll help us to get this animal. If the animal's a little bit bigger, we're probably not going to get it because it's going to end up going above it. So that is how you would set up your snare. And you'd want to set up a lot of these. The key features that you want to look for are these trails that go through these woods here. You want to look for where the animals have been frequenting so that you know exactly where you need to set those snares so that you have a successful trap line. Because with a successful trap line, it's going to keep you fed. Since I'm not actually trying to trap anything, I'm actually going to break this down so no kind of animal gets hurt in it. Okay? But anyhow, this is Live the Adventure. Hopefully this has been informative and it's helped you to understand how to set up a trap line with snares. If you've got any comments or suggestions that I left out, please put them down below. And as always, this is Live the Adventure, and subscribe button up here. See you guys.